I changed my bank information and opened a new account that no one knew about. That morning when I came home, my daughter and son-in-law were waiting at the door, faces red with anger. "What did you do with our money?" "The ATM card won't withdraw a single dollar." I said nothing, because for 3 years they believed I was weak and had no idea what was happening inside my own house. But they were wrong. I had been quietly preparing for this day, and that morning, everything began to fall apart. Thank you for being here and listening to this story. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Please share your city or country in the comments so we can see how far these stories travel. Also, some parts are fictionalized for storytelling purposes, but the reflections and lessons behind them may still be worth thinking about. When I walked through the front door that Tuesday morning, I knew something was wrong. It was January 1st, 2025. The kind of cold, gray Portland morning that makes you grateful for central heating and a hot cup of coffee. I'd been out early my usual walk to the VA clinic for a routine checkup, nothing serious. My knees weren't what they used to be, but at 67 I figured that came with the territory. I'd left the house at 7, expecting to be back by 9:30. I wasn't expecting to find my daughter and son-in-law waiting for me in my own living room. Jessica was standing by the window, arms crossed, her face tight with anger. Derek sat on the couch, my couch, his leg bouncing, jaw clenched. The air in the room felt heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks. "Where the heck have you been?" Jessica's voice cut through the silence. She didn't say heck, but I'll spare you the language. I closed the door behind me, slow and deliberate. 34 years in the Army teaches you to assess a situation before you react. Jessica's eyes were red-rimmed. Derek's fists were balled up, and on the coffee table between them sat my old bank envelope, the one I'd hidden in the attic. "They knew." "No, I went to the clinic," I said, keeping my voice level. "Same as I do every Tuesday. Don't play dumb, Dad." Jessica stepped forward, and for a moment I saw a stranger. Not the little girl who used to climb into my lap and ask me to read Where the Wild Things Are one more time. Not the teenager who'd cried on my shoulder when her first boyfriend broke her heart. This was someone else. Someone I didn't recognize. "We tried to get groceries this morning," she said, her voice shaking with fury. "The card didn't work. I called the bank. They said the account's been closed." I didn't say anything. I just set my coat on the rack, took my time hanging it up. My heart was pounding, but I didn't let it show. Derek stood up. He was a big guy, 6'2", maybe 220, and he knew how to use his size to intimidate. "You changed the account, didn't you?" "You moved the money." "It's my money," I said quietly. "Our money," Jessica shot back. "We've been taking care of you for 3 years, Dad. 3 years. We put a roof over your head, food on your table. This is my house." I interrupted, and something in my tone made her stop. "I bought it in 1989, paid it off in 2003. My name's on the deed, not yours." Derek took a step toward me. I didn't move. "You're making a big mistake, old man," he said, his voice low and dangerous. I met his eyes. I'd stared down worse than Derek Walsh in my life. I'd been in Kuwait in '91 when the oil fields were burning and the air was thick with smoke and the enemy was everywhere. I'd carried Marcus Thompson 3 miles through the desert with a piece of shrapnel in my leg after an IED tore through our convoy. Derek's anger didn't scare me, but the look in my daughter's eyes did, because somewhere in the last 3 years I'd lost her. And I hadn't even realized it until this moment. I didn't always see it coming. 3 years ago, March of 2021, I'd been a different man, happier, whole. Margaret was still alive then, and the house didn't feel so empty. We'd known about the cancer for 8 months. Stage 4. The doctors had given her a year, maybe less. We'd tried everything: chemo, radiation, clinical trials. Margaret fought like a soldier, harder than I ever did. But cancer doesn't care how hard you fight. I remember the last morning. It was a Sunday. The early light came through the curtains in our bedroom, soft and golden. Margaret was awake, but barely. Her hand felt so small in mine, like holding a bird. "Frank," she whispered. I leaned in close. "I'm here, Maggie. I'm right here." Her breathing was shallow, labored. The hospice nurse had said it wouldn't be long. Hours, maybe. Not days. "You need to promise me something." Her voice was so faint I had to press my ear close to hear her. "Anything. Take care of Jessica." She paused, struggling for breath. "But take care of yourself first. You hear me? Don't lose yourself trying to fix her." I didn't understand what she meant. Not then. "I promise," I said. She squeezed my hand, barely any strength left, but I felt it. "I love you, Frank Morrison. Every day of 42 years. I love you too, Maggie." She closed her eyes. And an hour later, she was gone. Standing in my living room on New Year's Day 2025, I finally understood what Margaret had meant. Jessica was still talking, her voice rising, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was thinking about that promise, about the 3 years since Margaret passed, about how Jessica had moved in 6 months after the funeral, saying she was worried about me living alone. How Derek had convinced me to sign a power of attorney just to make things easier. How little by little I'd stopped making decisions about my own life. How I'd been pushed into the attic bedroom on the 3rd floor, the one with no heating in winter and no air conditioning in summer. How I wasn't allowed to answer the phone anymore. How Jessica told the neighbors I had Alzheimer's, that I couldn't be trusted. How I'd stopped being a man and started being a problem. I looked at my daughter now, and I saw Margaret's eyes. The same green, the same shape. But Margaret's eyes had been warm. Jessica's were cold. "You don't understand what you've done, Dad," Jessica was saying. "We needed that money. Derek's got debts. That's enough." My voice was quiet, but it cut through her words like a blade. Jessica stopped. Derek shifted his weight, his hand twitching toward his pocket. "I kept my promise to your mother," I said. "I took care of you. I let you move in. I signed the papers you asked me to sign. I stayed out of your way. But I'm done now." "You're done!" Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Old man, you have no idea what you've just started." I held his gaze. "Neither do you." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Jessica grabbed her purse from the couch, her hands shaking. "Come on, Derek, let's go." They walked out. The door slammed so hard, the picture frame on the wall rattled. And I stood there in the silence of my own house, my house, and realized something I should have known a long time ago. I'd spent 3 years trying to take care of my daughter, trying to honor Margaret's memory by keeping our family together. But Margaret hadn't asked me to sacrifice myself. She'd asked me to take care of myself first. I never imagined that 3 years after her passing, I'd be in a fight for my life against my own daughter. But that's exactly where I was. And the war had only just begun. 6 months after Margaret's funeral, Jessica showed up at my door with 2 suitcases and a casserole dish. It was a Saturday in September 2021. One of those crisp, early fall days in Portland, when the air smells like rain and wood smoke, and the leaves are just starting to turn. I'd spent the morning trying to fix the kitchen faucet. It had been dripping for weeks, and I kept meaning to call a plumber, but I never got around to it. Margaret would have reminded me. She always kept track of those things. But Margaret was gone. I heard the doorbell and figured it was a package delivery. Instead, it was Jessica standing on the porch with Derek beside her. She was smiling, but her eyes looked tired. "Hey, Dad," she said softly. "Can we come in?" I stepped aside. Jessica set the casserole on the kitchen counter, chicken and rice, Margaret's recipe, and turned to face me. "We've been worried about you," she said. "I'm fine," I told her. And I meant it. I was fine. Lonely, maybe. The house felt too big with just me in it. But I was managing. "Dad, you're not fine." Jessica's voice was gentle, the way you'd talk to a child. "You're living alone in this big house. You barely leave except to go to the VA, Mrs. Patterson next door said she hasn't seen you in weeks. Mrs. Patterson. Dolores. She was 73, a retired nurse who'd lived next door for 20 years. She and Margaret used to have coffee together every Thursday morning. I've been busy, I said. Derek cleared his throat. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, looking around the living room like he was appraising it. Mr. Morrison, Jessica and I have been talking. We think it'd be good if we moved in for a while. Just temporarily. You know, to help out around the house. Keep you company. I looked at Jessica. She nodded. We want to be here for you, Dad. Mom would have wanted that. And just like that, I said yes. Looking back now, I can see the mistake. But at the time, it felt like the right thing. The kind thing. Jessica was my daughter, my only child, and she was offering to take care of me the way I'd taken care of her when she was young. How could I say no? They moved in the next week. Jessica took the guest room on the second floor. Derek set up a little office in the den, said he needed space to work. He was selling insurance policies, or trying to. The market's tough right now, he'd say whenever I asked how business was going. At first, it was nice having them around. The house felt less empty. Jessica cooked dinner most nights. Derek fixed the faucet, mowed the lawn, cleared the gutters. I told myself it was working out. But then October came, and things started to shift. It was small at first. Little things I didn't think much about. Derek started asking questions about my finances. How much do you get from the VA each month? What about Social Security? Do you have any savings? He framed it as concern. I just want to make sure you're set up, Mr. Morrison. Don't want you to run into any trouble down the road. I told him I was doing fine. $2,100 a month between my VA disability and Social Security. The house was paid off. I didn't have much in savings. Margaret's medical bills had taken care of that, but I wasn't in debt. That's good, Derek said, nodding. But you know, it might be easier if we set up a joint account. That way, if anything happens, Jessica can help with the bills. Just as a backup. I didn't see the harm in it. Derek made it sound so reasonable, so practical. By November, we'd opened the joint account at my bank, Columbia River Credit Union, over on Burnside. My VA check and Social Security both got deposited there. Jessica said she'd take care of the bills, utilities, property taxes, groceries, so I wouldn't have to worry about it. No, you've done enough worrying, Dad, she said. Let us handle this. I handed her the ATM card. Just for now, I told myself. Just until I get back on my feet. December rolled around. The holidays were hard that year. First Christmas without Margaret. Jessica decorated the house, put up the tree, hung the stockings. She was trying, I could tell, but it wasn't the same. One evening, Derek knocked on my bedroom door. He was holding a folder, the kind you get from a lawyer's office. Hey, Mr. Morrison, got a minute? I set down the book I was reading, a Tom Clancy novel I'd read 3 times already, and nodded. Derek sat on the edge of the bed. So Jessica and I were talking to a financial advisor. He suggested we set up a power of attorney. It's just a legal thing, you know, in case something happens and you can't make decisions for yourself. God forbid, he added quickly. But it's smart to have it in place. Power of attorney, I repeated. Yeah. It just means Jessica can sign documents on your behalf if you're like in the hospital or something. Makes everything smoother. You wouldn't want the bank freezing your accounts if there's an emergency, right? He made it sound so simple, so logical. Do I need a lawyer for this? I asked. Nah, we can do it online. I'll print out the forms. You just sign and we'll get it notarized at the bank. Takes 5 minutes. I should have asked more questions. I should have called a lawyer. I should have at least Googled what a power of attorney actually meant. But I didn't, because Derek was my son-in-law. Because Jessica was my daughter. Because I was tired and lonely and still drowning in grief, and I wanted to believe they were trying to help me. On December 15th, I signed the papers. Derek drove me to the credit union. We sat at a desk with a notary, a young woman named Stephanie something, and she asked if I understood what I was signing. I said yes. She stamped the document. Derek shook my hand and said, "You're all set, Mr. Morrison." And just like that, I handed over control of my life. I didn't realize what I'd done until months later. Didn't realize that the joint account Wasn't joint at all, it was theirs, with my money flowing into it. Didn't realize that the power of attorney gave Derek the legal right to make financial decisions without asking me. Didn't realize that I'd just signed away every bit of independence I had left. I thought I was being smart, practical, a good father. I was wrong. I signed that paper on a cold December afternoon with rain tapping against the windows, and Stephanie the notary smiling at me like I'd just done something responsible. I didn't know I was signing away my freedom, but I was about to find out. It started with a conversation in February 2022. 3 months after I signed the power of attorney. We were sitting at the kitchen table, me, Jessica, and Derek, eating breakfast. Scrambled eggs and toast. Derek was scrolling through his phone. Jessica was stirring her coffee, not looking at me. "Dad," she said finally, "we need to talk about your room." I set down my fork. "What about it?" "Stia." "Well, Derek and I have been thinking. We need more space. He's got clients coming over for meetings and the guest room just isn't working. We were hoping you could move upstairs, to the attic room." The attic. I hadn't been up there in years. It was where we used to store old boxes, Christmas decorations, things we didn't need but couldn't throw away. "The attic," I repeated. Derek looked up from his phone. "It's actually got a lot of light. Big window. You'd have more privacy up there. More quiet. You've been having trouble sleeping, Dad," Jessica added quickly. "All the noise down here, the TV, us moving around. You said yourself you need rest." I didn't remember saying that, but maybe I had. The months since Margaret passed were blurry. Grief does that to you. Makes you forget things. Question yourself. "It's just temporary," Jessica said, "until we figure out a better arrangement." I looked at her. My daughter. The little girl I used to carry on my shoulders. The teenager who'd cried in my arms when her mother died. "Okay," I said. "If that's what you need." It wasn't temporary. The attic was on the 3rd floor, up a narrow staircase that made my knees ache. The ceiling slanted down on both sides following the roofline. There was one small window facing the street, a twin bed pushed against the wall, and a dresser with 3 drawers. That was it. No closet. No bathroom. I had to go downstairs to use the one on the 2nd floor. No desk, no chair, just the bed and the dresser and a small lamp that barely gave off enough light to read by. "We'll get you set up nice," Jessica said, standing in the doorway as I carried my clothes up in a cardboard box. "Maybe a space heater for winter." She never brought the space heater. By summer, I understood what the attic really was. It was a prison. Portland summers aren't like the Midwest where the heat is dry and relentless. Here it's damp. The air sits on you heavy and thick. And in the attic, with no ventilation, no fan, it was unbearable. I'd lie on that narrow bed at night, sweating through my t-shirt, listening to Jessica and Derek laughing downstairs, the sound of the TV filtering up through the floorboards. I tried opening the window, but it was painted shut. Had been for years. In winter, it was worse. No insulation. The cold seeped through the walls, through the slanted ceiling, through the gaps in the floorboards. I'd pile every blanket I had on the bed and still wake up shivering. My breath came out in clouds. My fingers went numb. I asked Jessica about the heater. "Oh, Dad, I forgot. I'll get one this week, I promise." She never did. It wasn't just the cold or the heat. It was everything else. By spring of 2023, I realized I hadn't left the house in months. Not since the previous fall when Jessica drove me to the VA for a checkup. After that, she said the appointments weren't necessary. "You're doing fine, Dad. No need to bother the doctors." But I wasn't doing fine. I didn't have my cell phone anymore. Derek said it was broken, that he'd get it fixed. He never brought it back. The landline downstairs was the only phone in the house, and Jessica or Derek always answered it. If I tried to come down to make a call, they'd ask who I was calling, why, if it could wait. Eventually, I stopped trying. I didn't have my wallet either. No cash. No credit cards. "You don't need it up here, Dad," Jessica said. "We're taking care of everything, remember." I didn't have friends over. Didn't have visitors. Didn't have anyone. One afternoon in late spring, I heard voices outside. I pulled myself up to the window and looked down. Mrs. Martinez was standing on the sidewalk talking to Jessica. Dolores Martinez, she was 73, a retired nurse who'd lived next door for 20 years. She and Margaret used to sit on the porch every Thursday morning, drinking coffee and talking about their gardens. I tapped on the window, tried to wave. Mrs. Martinez looked up. I saw her eyes meet mine. I waved again harder. But then Jessica said something, and Mrs. Martinez's expression changed. She looked at me not with recognition, but with pity. Then she nodded at Jessica, patted her arm, and walked back to her house. Later that evening, I asked Jessica what they'd been talking about. "Oh, just neighbor stuff," she said breezily. "Mrs. Martinez was asking about you. What did you tell her?" Jessica hesitated. Then she sighed like she was choosing her words carefully. "Dad, I told her the truth, that you've been having memory problems, that the doctors think it might be early Alzheimer's." I stared at her. "What? You've been forgetting things, Dad, repeating yourself, getting confused." Her voice was soft, almost kind. "It's okay. We're taking care of you." But Mrs. Martinez, she was worried. "I just wanted her to understand why you're not around as much." "I don't have Alzheimer's," I said. Jessica smiled sadly. "I know it's hard to accept, but we're doing everything we can to help you." She left, and I sat there on the edge of that narrow bed, staring at the slanted ceiling, and realized what she'd done. She'd told the neighbors I was losing my mind. If I tried to talk to them, they wouldn't believe me. They'd think I was confused, sick. They'd feel sorry for me maybe, but they wouldn't help. I was alone. The days blurred together after that. Summer, fall, winter, summer again. 2023 into 2024. I lost track of time. Lost track of myself. I wasn't allowed to watch TV downstairs. Derek said it was too stimulating for me. I wasn't allowed to use the kitchen except during mealtimes. And even then, Jessica would hover watching me like I might set something on fire. I became a ghost in my own house. Sometimes late at night I'd lie awake and think about Kuwait. About the Gulf War back in '91. About being pinned down by enemy fire, the sand hot under my chest. The taste of dust in my mouth. About carrying Marcus 3 miles through the desert, his blood soaking into my uniform. Back then I'd been a soldier. I'd had a purpose. A mission. Now I was 65 years old, lying in an attic that felt like a cell, listening to my daughter and her husband living my life downstairs. And the worst part, nobody knew. Mrs. Martinez thought I had Alzheimer's. The neighbors thought I was being cared for. Even the people at the VA, if they thought about me at all, probably assumed I was fine. But I wasn't fine. For 2 years I lived like a prisoner in my own home, and no one knew. But that was about to change. It happened on a Tuesday morning in July. I woke up on the floor, not in my bed, on the floor next to the dresser, with no memory of how I got there. My head was pounding. My mouth tasted like copper. The attic was bright with summer sunlight streaming through the small window, and I had to squint against it. I pulled myself up using the dresser for support. My legs felt like they were made of wet sand. My heart was beating too fast, then too slow, like it couldn't decide on a rhythm. This had been happening for weeks. The dizziness, the exhaustion, the way I'd be sitting on the edge of the bed reading, and then suddenly it was 3 hours later, and the book was on the floor, and I didn't remember closing my eyes. Jessica said it was my age. "You're 66, Dad. Your body's slowing down." But I'd been 66 for months, and this was new. I sat on the bed and tried to remember the night before. I'd taken my pills, my blood pressure medication, the one the VA prescribed back in 2018. Lisinopril. 10 milligrams once a day. I'd been taking it for 6 years without a problem, but lately something felt wrong. I waited until I heard Jessica and Derek leave the house. They always went out on Tuesday mornings, some errand or another. The front door slammed. The car engine started. I counted to 60 just to be sure. Then I opened the dresser drawer. My pill bottles were in the back, behind a stack of old t-shirts. There were 3 of them, the Lisinopril, a vitamin D supplement, and an aspirin the VA doctor said I should take for my heart. I pulled out the Lisinopril bottle and shook it. A dozen pills rattled inside. I opened it and poured one into my palm. It was white, round, small. I stared at it. Lisinopril was supposed to be pink. I knew that because I'd been taking it for 6 years. Pink oblong with a little score down the middle so you could split it if you needed to. I'd looked at those pills 1,000 times. This one was white. My hand started shaking. I set the pill on the dresser and pulled out my phone, except I didn't have my phone. Derek still had it said he was getting it fixed. So I did the next best thing. I went downstairs. The house was empty. Quiet. I moved through it like I was on a reconnaissance mission, checking corners, listening for sounds. Old habits die hard. The computer was in the den on the desk Derek had set up for his insurance business. I sat down, waited for it to boot up. My heart was still doing that strange, arrhythmic thing, and I pressed 2 fingers to my wrist to check my pulse. Fast, then slow. Fast, then slow. I opened the browser and typed white round pill small. Hundreds of results came up. I clicked on a pill identifier site and started scrolling. It took 15 minutes, but I found it. Zolpidem, 5 milligrams. Generic Ambien, a sleeping pill. I sat back in the chair and stared at the screen. Someone had replaced my blood pressure medication with a sedative. Someone had been giving me sleeping pills for weeks, maybe months. That's why I kept waking up on the floor. Why I couldn't stay awake. Why my heart felt like it was misfiring. I wasn't taking my blood pressure medication at all. I should have panicked. Should have confronted Jessica the second she walked back in. But panic gets you hurt. Gets you taken out. I learned that in Kuwait, back in '91 when the mortars were falling, and half my unit was screaming and the other half was frozen. Panic is what turns soldiers into casualties. So I didn't panic. I closed the browser, cleared the history, and went back upstairs. I put the white pill back in the bottle and screwed the cap on tight. Then I sat on the bed and thought. Jessica was a nurse. Had been for 20 years. She worked at Providence Portland Medical Center until she quit. Last year said she wanted to focus on taking care of family. She had access to medications, knew how to get them, knew what they did. And Derek was the one who always brought my pills upstairs. Don't worry, Mr. Morrison, I got your meds. Every morning like clockwork. I needed proof. The landline was downstairs in the kitchen, mounted on the wall like it was 1995. I waited until I heard the shower running on the second floor. Jessica always took long showers. And then I crept down the stairs, moving as quietly as my bad knees would let me. I dialed the number for the VA hospital. It rang 4 times before someone picked up. Pharmacy, this is Rodriguez. Hi, I said, keeping my voice low. This is Frank Morrison, patient ID 774219. I need to check on a prescription. There was a pause. Keys clicking. Okay, Mr. Morrison. What's the medication? Lisinopril, 10 milligrams. More clicking. Yep, I've got it here. Prescribed January of 2018, refilled every 90 days. Last refill was June 4th of this year. You should have plenty left. What color is it supposed to be? Color. Rodriguez sounded confused. Lisinopril 10 milligram is pink. Oblong. Has a score line. Why is there a problem with your pills? I glanced toward the stairs. The shower was still running. No problem, I said. Just wanted to make sure I had the right ones. Thanks. I hung up before he could ask anything else. I stood in the kitchen staring at the phone and felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Clarity. Someone had switched my medication. Someone had been sedating me, keeping me drowsy and disoriented, so I'd stay up in that attic and not ask questions. So I'd be too tired to think, too confused to notice what was happening. And there were only 2 people in this house besides me. Jessica, my daughter, the woman I'd raised, the woman I'd trusted, and Derek. The water shut off upstairs. I heard Jessica moving around in the bathroom. I walked back up to the attic slowly, carefully. My heart was still beating wrong, but my mind was clear for the first time in months. I thought about the Alzheimer's lie, about being pushed up to the attic, about the power of attorney I'd signed, about the joint bank account. This wasn't just neglect. This was deliberate. Someone was trying to keep me sedated, keep me weak, keep me quiet. And if they were willing to swap my medication pills that were supposed to keep my heart healthy, then what else were they willing to do? I sat on the edge of the narrow bed and looked at the pill bottle in my hand. Someone was trying to drug me, and I knew exactly who. The stairs creaked on the 5th step from the bottom. I knew that because I'd lived in this house for 36 years. Knew every loose board, every squeaky hinge, every place where the floor settled and groaned. Knew it the way a soldier knows the terrain he's defending. It was 2 in the morning. August. I was standing at the top of the attic staircase, barefoot, listening. Downstairs, the house was silent. Derek's snoring rattled up through the floorboards, deep and steady, which meant he was out cold. Jessica was a light sleeper, though. I'd have to be careful. I'd been planning this for 3 weeks. Ever since I found the pills. If they were willing to swap my medication, what else were they hiding? I took the stairs one at a time, skipping the 5th step entirely. The den was at the back of the house. Jessica had turned it into her home office after she quit nursing. I need space to organize Dad's medical stuff, she'd said. I hadn't been allowed in there since. The door was unlocked. I slipped inside and pulled out the small flashlight I'd found in a box of old camping gear, the kind you twist to turn on with a weak yellow beam. The desk was covered with papers and file folders. I started with the one labeled F. Morrison, Medical. Inside were printouts with official-looking letterheads. I held the flashlight close and read, Patient name, Franklin J. Morrison, diagnosis, Alzheimer's disease stage, 2 moderate cognitive decline, prescribing, physician Dr. Alan Pritchard. MD date of diagnosis, February 10th, 2023. I stared at the page. I didn't have Alzheimer's. I'd never been to a doctor named Pritchard. The last time I'd seen a doctor was at the VA in 2022 for a routine physical. They'd told me I was fine. This was fake. I flipped through the rest cognitive assessments, memory tests, brain scans, showing significant decline. All dated from early 2023. All fabricated. There were handwritten notes in Jessica's handwriting about behavioral issues, confusion, inability to manage finances. About how I required constant supervision, lies, professional-looking lies, the kind of documentation you'd need if you wanted to have someone declared mentally incompetent. If you wanted to justify locking them away. I reached for the next folder. Inside was a glossy brochure with a photo of smiling elderly people in a garden. The text read, Sunset Gardens Memory Care Facility. Compassionate care for your loved ones. On the back, someone had written in pen, Medicaid bed hold, January 2025. Confirm placement by December 1st. Underneath was a half-filled application form. My name. My social security number. Under reason for placement, Jessica had written, patient has stage 2 Alzheimer's and requires 24-hour supervision. Family can no longer provide adequate care at home. They were going to put me in a nursing home. In January, 4 months from now. With the power of attorney, I'd signed Jessica could commit me without my consent. She could hand me over, and I'd have no say. And once I was gone, what would happen to my house? The house I'd paid off, lived in for decades. Jessica and Derek would have it. All of it. I'd be locked away in some memory care unit, drugged into compliance. And they'd be living in my home, spending my money erasing me. I heard a sound upstairs. Footsteps. A door opening. I shoved the papers back, clicked off the flashlight, and froze. The footsteps went into the bathroom. Water running, toilet flushing. I waited, counting seconds in my head. 10, 20, 30. The footsteps returned to the bedroom. Door closed. I slipped out of the den, through the kitchen, up the stairs. Skipped the 5th step. Made it back to the attic without a sound. I sat on the bed, breathing hard. I should have taken pictures. Should have grabbed evidence. But I'd panicked. Stupid. But I knew where the files were now. I could go back. Except I couldn't do this alone anymore. I needed help. Someone I could trust. Someone who wouldn't believe Jessica's lies. There was only one person. The next morning, while Jessica and Derek were out, I went downstairs and dialed the number I'd memorized 33 years ago. It rang twice. Hello, Marcus, on my voice cracked. Marcus Thompson. A pause. Frank Morrison. Yeah, it's me. Jesus, Frank. He sounded stunned. I tried calling you last year. Your number was disconnected. Where have you been? It's a long story. I need your help. Another pause. What's going on? I looked toward the front door, listening. I don't have much time, but I need you to trust me. Marcus Thompson. We'd served together in Kuwait back in '91. He'd been my radio man. I'd carried him 3 miles through the desert after an IED tore through our convoy, saved his life. He'd told me once he'd never forget it. Frank. He said, his voice steady. Are you in trouble? Yeah, I said. I am. Then talk to me. I told him. The pills, the fake Alzheimer's diagnosis, the nursing home plan. The 2 years locked in an attic while my daughter told everyone I was losing my mind. When I finished, there was silence. Then Marcus said, Where are you? Portland, my house. Give me the address. I did. Heard him writing it down. I'm in Beaverton, he said. 20 minutes away. Frank, listen to me, you're not alone anymore. Sit tight. I'll figure out a way to help. But I need a couple days to look into this. My throat tightened. Okay. I mean it. You're not alone. I heard the front door opening. Jessica's voice. Dad, you down here. I have to go, I whispered. Call me when you can. I'm coming, Frank. I hung up and called back. Yeah, just getting water. I climbed back to the attic and closed the door. Marcus had picked up on the second ring. Frank, you okay? I wasn't okay. But I was about to be. If you're still here, comment, still here. So I know you're following the story. And tell me this. If you suddenly realized the people living in your own home might be hiding something dangerous from you, what would you do? Stay quiet or start planning your next move? Share your thoughts in the comments. Also, please note, the next part of the story includes some fictional elements added for storytelling. If this kind of content isn't for you, feel free to stop watching here. I didn't sleep for 3 days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those documents. The fake Alzheimer's diagnosis, the nursing home brochure, Jessica's handwriting Medicaid bed hold. January 2025. I'd wait by the attic window during the day watching the street below, watching for Marcus. He'd said he needed a couple days to look into things, but every hour felt like a week. On the 3rd night, the phone rang downstairs. I was in the attic lying on the narrow bed, staring at the slanted ceiling. It was after 10. Jessica and Derek were watching TV in the living room. I could hear the muffled sound through the floorboards. The ringing stopped. I heard Jessica answer, her voice too quiet to make out the words. Then footsteps on the stairs. Dad. She knocked on the attic door. Phone for you. I sat up. Who is it? Some guy. Says he's an old army friend. Marcus. I opened the door. Jessica was standing there with the cordless phone, looking annoyed. Make it quick. It's late. I took the phone and closed the door in her face. Hello. Frank. Marcus's voice was low, tight. We need to talk, but not on this line. Is there somewhere you can get to tomorrow? Somewhere they won't follow you? My heart was pounding. The VA clinic. I've got a checkup scheduled for 10 a.m. Jessica usually drops me off and picks me up after. Perfect. I'll meet you there. Northwest corner of the parking lot. Look for a gray Honda Accord. Okay. Frank, don't tell them anything. Act normal. Can you do that? Yeah. He hung up. I stood there holding the phone, listening to the dial tone. Then I opened the door and handed it back to Jessica. Everything okay? She asked. Fine, I said. Just an old buddy checking in. She looked at me for a moment, like she was trying to decide whether to believe me. Then she nodded and went back downstairs. I closed the door and exhaled. Tomorrow. The next morning, Jessica drove me to the VA like she always did. Didn't ask questions, didn't seem suspicious. Just turned on the radio and hummed along to some pop song I didn't recognize. She dropped me off at the entrance. I'll be back at 11:30. Don't wander off, okay, Dad? I won't. She drove away. I watched her car disappear around the corner, then walked across the parking lot to the northwest corner. The gray Honda was there. Marcus was sitting in the driver's seat window, down, wearing a mariner's cap and sunglasses. He looked older than I remembered, more gray in his beard lines around his eyes, but it was him. I climbed into the passenger seat. Jesus, Frank. He pulled off the sunglasses and looked at me. Really looked at me. You've lost weight. Yeah, well, the addict diet. He didn't laugh. Just reached over and gripped my shoulder. I'm sorry. I should have checked on you sooner. After Margaret passed, I tried calling, but it's not your fault, I said. I didn't know I needed help until it was too late. Marcus nodded. Then he reached into the back seat and pulled out a manila folder. I've been digging into Derek Walsh for the past 3 days. And Frank, what I found, it's bad. How bad? Life-threatening bad. He opened the folder. Inside were printouts, credit reports, court records, screenshots of what looked like online forums. He spread them across the dashboard. Derek's got a gambling problem, Marcus said. And I'm not talking about scratchers at the 7-Eleven, high-stakes poker, underground games. He's been in deep for at least 2 years. I stared at the papers. Numbers in red. Debt collections. Court judgments. How deep, I asked. Marcus looked at me. $85,000. The air went out of my lungs. 85,000, I repeated. Yeah. And it's not with a casino. It's with a crew that operates out of Northeast Portland. Russian organized crime. They call themselves Volkov, means wolf in Russian. These guys don't send you to collections, Frank. They send enforcers. He pulled out another printout, a screenshot from some dark web forum. I couldn't read most of it, but I saw the name Volkov Crew. And underneath a list of services, debt collection, intimidation, asset recovery. I felt cold. Derek borrowed from them, I asked. 2 years ago. Started small, 10, 20,000. Kept doubling down, trying to win it back. Standard gambler logic. By last fall, he was in for 85. Jesus. There's more. Marcus pulled out another page. I talked to a guy I know who used to run intel on these crews. He said Volkov gave Derek an extension last year, probably because Derek convinced them he had a way to pay. But the deadline's coming up. Mid-February 2025. Mid-February, 6 weeks from now. What happens if he doesn't pay? I asked, even though I already knew. They don't negotiate, Frank. They collect, one way or another. I sat back in the seat trying to process it. Derek owed $85,000 to a Russian crime syndicate, and the deadline was in 6 weeks. So that's why, I said quietly. That's why they're pushing the nursing home plan for January. Marcus nodded. I think so. If you're in a facility, they've got full control of your house, your finances. But Frank, he hesitated. What? I ran a deeper check on Derek's activities. He's been researching life insurance policies, specifically yours. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Marcus pulled out one more printout. It was a search history from Derek's laptop. Marcus had somehow gotten access. I didn't ask how. The searches were dated from the past 6 months. How much is life insurance payout for seniors? Can power of attorney access? Life insurance. Beneficiary change after dementia diagnosis. Accidental death versus natural causes insurance. I stared at the screen. He's been researching how to access your life insurance, Marcus said. Cheetah and Frank, if you've got a policy especially. One Margaret set up, Derek's probably figured out it's worth more than anything he could get from draining your bank account. Margaret had a policy, I said slowly. 180,000. I'm the beneficiary. But if I stopped. If you pass away, who gets it? Marcus asked gently. Jessica, she's the secondary beneficiary. Marcus closed the folder. Derek needs $85,000 by mid-February. You're worth $180,000 if you're gone. Do the math, Frank. I sat there in the passenger seat of that gray Honda in the VA parking lot and felt the full weight of it settle over me. Derek wasn't just trying to steal my money. He was planning to end my life. The nursing home, I said. If they put me in there, easier to make it look like an accident, Marcus finished. Or natural causes. Old guy with Alzheimer's already on a bunch of medications confined to a facility. Nobody asks questions. Jesus Christ. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Marcus said, Frank, listen to me. Derek's desperate. And desperate people do desperate things. You can't go back to that house and pretend everything's fine. I have to, I said. If I disappear, they'll know something's wrong. They'll move faster. Then we need a plan, fast. I looked at him. What do you suggest? Marcus thought for a moment. Give me a few more days. I need to dig deeper, find out if Derek's made any concrete plans, if there are any enforcers already watching you. In the meantime, you need to be careful. Don't eat or drink anything Jessica or Derek give you directly. Don't take those pills. And Frank, if anything feels wrong, call me immediately. I'll come get you. I nodded. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a cheap, prepaid flip phone. Take this. I've already programmed my number in. Keep it hidden. Use it if you need me. I took the phone and slipped it into my jacket pocket. Thank you, I said. Marcus gripped my shoulder again. We're going to get you out of this. I owe you my life, Frank. I'm not going to let these bastards take yours. Jessica picked me up at 11:30, right on time. I climbed into the passenger seat and she asked how the appointment went. Fine, I said. Just routine. She nodded and turned on the radio. I stared out the window, my hand in my pocket, feeling the outline of the flip phone Marcus had given me. The deadline was 6 weeks away, mid-February 2025, and I was the insurance policy. Marcus called on a Wednesday early September. I was in the attic, sitting by the window watching the rain. Portland fall, gray skies, constant drizzle, the kind of weather that seeps into your bones. The prepaid phone he'd given me buzzed in my pocket. I answered on the first ring. I talked to your neighbor, Marcus said. Mrs. Martinez. I sat up straighter. And, she's sharp Frank. I told her I was an old army friend checking in on you. She invited me in for coffee, showed me pictures of her grandkids, the whole 9 yards. Then I asked about you. What did she say? She said Jessica told her you have Alzheimer's. That you're confused, forgetful, sometimes don't recognize people. Marcus paused. But Frank, Mrs. Martinez is a retired nurse, 30 years at Providence. She knows what dementia looks like. And she told me something interesting. What? She said she saw you at your window last spring. You waved at her, clear as day. She waved back. And she said you looked perfectly lucid, sad maybe, but not confused. Her exact words were, "That man doesn't have Alzheimer's. I'd stake my license on it." I closed my eyes. Relief washed over me. Someone believed me. Someone saw me. She'll testify if we need her. Marcus continued. I didn't push it, but I got the sense she's been worried about you. She asked if you were okay. I told her you were managing. Thank you, I said quietly. That's not all. She mentioned something else. Jessica came over last week, asked to borrow a medical reference book, something about cognitive assessments. Mrs. Martinez thought it was odd, but she lent it anyway. Jessica's building a case, I said. Making the Alzheimer's story look legitimate. Exactly. But we've got a witness now, Frank. Someone who can counter the narrative. We hung up. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and stared out at the rain. One piece of evidence, one ally. It wasn't much, but it was something. The second discovery came a week later. I was alone in the attic, going through an old cardboard box I'd shoved under the bed years ago. It was full of Margaret's things, photos, letters, a journal she'd kept during our first year of marriage. I hadn't been able to look at it since she passed. But that afternoon, with Derek and Jessica out somewhere, I pulled it out. At the bottom of the box, tucked inside an envelope, was a letter from Mutual of Portland Life Insurance Company. I opened it. Policyholder Margaret A. Morrison. Policy number 4, 721-8834-MP death. Benefit $180,000, primary beneficiary. Franklin J. Morrison, secondary beneficiary, Jessica L. Morrison. The letter was dated March of 2020, a year before Margaret passed. She must have taken out the policy when she got the cancer diagnosis. $180,000. Enough to cover funeral costs, pay off any remaining debts, give me a cushion. Enough to make me worth more gone than alive. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the letter, and realized something. Jessica didn't know about this policy. At least she hadn't when Margaret first died. But if she'd been going through my things, through our things, she'd have found the paperwork eventually. And if Derek knew about it, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Quickly, I shoved the letter back into the envelope, buried it in the box, kicked the box under the bed. The attic door opened. Jessica stood there holding a laundry basket. "Just bringing up some clean clothes, Dad." "Thanks," I said. She set the basket on the dresser, but her eyes flicked to the box under the bed. Just for a second. Then back to me. "You going through old stuff?" she asked. "Just reminiscing." She nodded slowly. "Mom had a lot of paperwork. Insurance stuff, bank stuff. I've been trying to organize it. If you find anything important, let me know, okay?" "Sure." She left. I waited until her footsteps faded, then pulled the box back out and checked the envelope. There was a second copy of the letter, a duplicate. It was gone. Jessica had already found it, and that meant Derek knew exactly how much I was worth. The third discovery happened at the end of the month. Derek had a habit of leaving his jacket on the coat rack by the front door. On a Friday afternoon, while he and Jessica were upstairs arguing about something, I slipped downstairs. The jacket was heavy leather, expensive looking. I checked the pockets. In the inner pocket, folded in half, was a document. Home Equity Line of Credit Agreement Borrower. Franklin J. Morrison Property Address. 4217 SE, Hawthorne Boulevard, Portland. OR Loan, amount $45,000. Lender, Columbia River Credit Union. At the bottom was a signature, my signature, except it wasn't. I'd signed enough documents in my life to know my own handwriting. The loops were wrong. The slant was off. Someone had forged it, probably traced it from the power of attorney I'd signed back in December. $45,000. Borrowed against my house that I'd paid off in 2003. I heard footsteps on the stairs. I shoved the paper back into the jacket and moved toward the kitchen, but it was too late. Derek was already at the bottom of the stairs. He saw me, saw the jacket. His eyes narrowed. "What are you doing down here?" "Getting water," I said, keeping my voice steady. He walked over to the coat rack, checked the pockets, pulled out the loan document, looked at me. "You went through my jacket." "I was looking for my wallet. I thought maybe..." "Bullshit." He stepped closer. He was a big guy, 6'2", 220, and he knew how to use his size. "You saw this, didn't you?" I didn't answer. Derek's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the stairs, then back at me. When he spoke, his voice was low, dangerous. "Listen to me, old man. You say one word about this to anyone, and I'll make sure you don't wake up the next morning." Accidents happen to confused old veterans every day. A fall down the stairs, a medication mix-up, a pillow over the face while you're sleeping. His eyes were cold, dead. "Do you understand me?" I held his gaze. Didn't blink, didn't back down. "I understand." "Good." He folded the paper, shoved it back in his jacket. "Now get back upstairs and stay there." I climbed the stairs step by step, feeling his eyes on my back the whole way. That night, I lay in the narrow attic bed, staring at the ceiling. I had evidence now. Mrs. Martinez could testify I didn't have Alzheimer's. The life insurance policy proved motive. The forged loan was fraud, real, prosecutable fraud. But Derek's threat echoed in my head. A pillow over the face while you're sleeping. Evidence didn't matter if I didn't live long enough to use it. I reached under the mattress, pulled out the prepaid phone Marcus had given me, and stared at it. I had proof, but proof wouldn't stop a bullet or a pillow pressed over my face in the middle of the night. Derek came to the attic 2 days later. It was late afternoon. I was sitting on the bed, pretending to read, when I heard his footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, deliberate. He didn't knock, just opened the door and stood in the doorway, filling the frame. He was holding a manila folder. "We need to talk," he said. I set the book down. "About what?" He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. The attic suddenly felt smaller. He dropped the folder on the bed next to me. "Open it." I did. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Legal-sized, official-looking letterhead from some law office I'd never heard of. Quitclaim deed grantor, Franklin J. Morrison grantee. Jessica L. Morrison and Derek A. Walsh. Property 4217 S.E. Hawthorne Boulevard, Portland, OR 97214. At the bottom was a signature line. Blank. I looked up at Derek. "What is this?" "There's a quitclaim deed. It transfers ownership of the house from you to Jessica and me." "I'm not signing this." Derek smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, you are. This is my house. I've lived here for 36 years. I paid it off. And now you're signing it over." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Look, Frank, we both know you're not doing well. The Alzheimer's, the confusion. You can't take care of yourself anymore. Jessica and I have been taking care of you for 3 years. It's only fair. I don't have Alzheimer's." "Sure you do." His voice was calm, matter of fact. "All the doctors say so. It's in your medical records, and when the time comes when we have to move you to Sunset Gardens, this house is going to need to be sold to cover the costs. Unless you sign it over now. Make things easier for everyone." I stared at him. "And if I don't?" Derek's smile faded. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Well, then I'll arrange an accident, a fall, a gas leak, something quick, and Jessica will get the house anyway, along with that life insurance policy your wife left you." He tilted his head. One way or another, Frank, this house is ours. You just get to choose whether you're around to see it happen." My hands were shaking. I balled them into fists. "Get out," I said quietly. "I think about it." Derek straightened, tapped the folder. "You've got 48 hours. Then I'm coming back with a notary." He left. The door clicked shut. I sat there staring at the quitclaim deed and realized I was out of time. I called Marcus from the prepaid phone as soon as I heard Derek's car pull out of the driveway. "He wants me to sign the house over," I said. Gave me 2 days. Marcus swore under his breath. "Okay, we're done waiting. Meet me tomorrow morning. Same place, VA parking lot, 10 a.m. We're putting a plan in motion." "What kind of plan?" "The kind that gets you out of this alive." The next morning, I climbed into Marcus's gray Honda and found him with a yellow legal pad covered in notes. "I've been working on this all night," he said. "It's risky, but it's the only shot we've got." He flipped the pad around so I could see. 5 numbered items. "Not step 1, Marcus said. "We open a new bank account, completely separate from anything Jessica and Derek have access to. I've already found a credit union across town, Pacific Credit Union over on Burnside. They don't share systems with Columbia River. We get you in there, open an account in your name, only no power of attorney attached." "Okay," I said. "Then what?" "Step 2, we redirect your income. Your VA disability and Social Security, they're both deposited electronically, right?" I nodded. "We file the paperwork to switch the deposits to the new account. It takes about 5 to 7 business days to process. Once it goes through, Derek and Jessica's account goes dry. No more money flowing in. They'll notice immediately." "Yours exactly. Which is why step 3 is critical." Marcus tapped the pad. "Between now and when the money stops, we gather evidence. Everything. I need you to document every threat, every lie, every piece of abuse. The fake medical records, the forged loan, the medication swap, we photograph it all. I'll set you up with a small digital recorder. You hide it, record conversations. Anything that proves what they're doing." I thought about the documents in Jessica's office. The pills, the nursing home brochure. "I can do that," I said. "Step 4, Marcus continued. "We bring in the professionals. I've got to contact Daniel Rivers. He's an attorney who specializes in elder abuse cases. He's good, and he's willing to take this on pro bono if the evidence is solid." We also file a report with Adult Protective Services. They'll open an investigation. Will that be enough? Not on its own, which is why step 5 is the most important. Marcus looked at me. I've got a friend in the Portland PD, Detective Sarah Brennan. She works in the Elder Abuse Unit. She's been trying to crack down on these cases for years, but she needs evidence, real concrete evidence. If we can give her that, along with your testimony and Mrs. Martinez as a witness, she'll move fast. Arrest warrants, charges, the whole thing. I sat back in the seat, processing it all. So we're setting a trap, I said slowly. Exactly. We let Derek and Jessica think they've won. You play along, stay quiet, act scared. Meanwhile, we're cutting off their money building a case and getting the cops ready. Then when the money stops flowing and they confront you, boom. We've got them on recording, we've got the evidence, and we've got law enforcement ready to step in. It was smart, tactical, the kind of operation we used to run in the Gulf. But it was also dangerous. What if they figure it out before we're ready? I asked. Then we move fast. Detective Brennan has agreed to be on standby. If you feel like you're in immediate danger, you call me, I call her, and we extract you. But Frank, Marcus's expression was serious. If we pull you out early, we might not have enough to prosecute. They could walk, and if they walk, they'll come after you again. So we get one shot, and we have to make it count. I looked at the legal pad. 5 steps, 5 chances to make a mistake, but it was the only option I had. When do we start? I asked. Marcus started the engine. Right now. Pacific Credit Union opens at 9. We'll get the account set up today, file the deposit changes by tomorrow. In the meantime, I'll get you that recorder. You start gathering evidence immediately. What about the quitclaim deed? Derek's coming back in 2 days. Stall him. Tell him you need to think about it. Tell him you want to talk to a lawyer. Whatever you have to say to buy time. We just need a week, maybe 2, to get everything in place. I nodded. Okay. Marcus pulled out of the parking lot. Frank, I need you to understand something. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Derek's desperate. When that money stops, he's going to panic, and desperate people do dangerous things. I know. If at any point you feel like your life is in danger, if he threatens you again, if anything happens, you get out. You call me. Promise me. I looked at him. My friend. The man whose life I'd saved 33 years ago in the Kuwaiti desert. The man who was now trying to save mine, I promise. That night I lay in the attic bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Marcus's plan. 5 steps. Open an account. Redirect the money. Gather evidence. Get the lawyers and cops involved. Spring the trap. It was a good plan. Solid. Military grade. But it was also all or nothing. If we succeeded, I'd get my life back. My house, my freedom, maybe even justice. If we failed, Derek would know I'd tried to fight back. And he wouldn't give me a 3rd chance. We had 1 shot, and if we missed, I'd lose everything, my home, my freedom, and maybe my life. October and November were the longest 2 months of my life. I stalled Derek on the quitclaim deed, told him I needed time, that I wanted to consult a lawyer, that my head wasn't clear. He didn't like it, but he backed off. Barely. Every few days, he'd come up to the attic and remind me the clock was ticking. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Frank. But I wasn't stalling because I was confused. I was buying time. Marcus had given me a digital voice recorder the size of a pack of cigarettes. I kept it hidden in the lining of my jacket, tucked behind the dresser when I wasn't using it. The attic had one advantage, the heating vent. It ran down through the walls, connecting the 3rd floor to the 2nd. If I pressed my ear against it, I could hear everything happening in the master bedroom below. And if I placed the recorder next to the vent, it picked up every word. Late October, I caught this. Jessica. How much longer are we going to wait? He's stalling. Derek. He'll sign? He's scared? Old guys like him always fold eventually. Jessica. What if he doesn't? What if he tries to call someone? Derek. Who's he going to call? He doesn't have a phone, doesn't have friends. Nobody believes him anyway. They all think he's senile. A pause. Then Jessica quieter. What about the nursing home we're supposed to confirm placement by December 1st? Derek. We'll get him in there, one way or another. If he won't sign the deed, we move him to Sunset Gardens and liquidate the house after. The insurance payout covers Volkov either way. I pressed stop. My hands were shaking. Insurance payout. One way or another. I saved the file and hid the recorder. While I gathered evidence from inside, Marcus worked the outside. He met with Mrs. Martinez twice more. She gave him a written statement signed and dated attesting that I'd shown no signs of cognitive decline. That man is as sharp as anyone I know, she'd told Marcus. If Jessica says otherwise, she's lying. Marcus also contacted Rodriguez at the VA pharmacy. Rodriguez pulled my prescription records and confirmed the lisinopril had never been changed, which meant someone had swapped the pills after they left the pharmacy. He documented it in an official report, and Marcus went back to Jessica's office one night while they were out. I'd told him where to find the fake medical records. He photographed everything, the forged diagnosis, the nursing home application, the handwritten notes in Jessica's handwriting. By mid-November, we had a case, but we still needed the final piece cutting off their money. Marcus came to get me on December 15th. It was a Sunday. Jessica and Derek had gone to some holiday party across town, wouldn't be back until evening. Marcus texted me from the prepaid phone outside. Gray Honda. 2 minutes. I grabbed my jacket, my wallet, and the old baseball cap I used to wear when I mowed the lawn. Slipped down the stairs, out the back door, into the passenger seat. You ready? Marcus asked. Let's do it. Pacific Credit Union was on Burnside in a low brick building with a blue awning. Inside it smelled like coffee and new carpet. A woman at the front desk greeted us with a smile. Good morning, how can I help you? We need to open a new account, Marcus said. And we'd like to speak with someone about redirecting government benefit deposits. She nodded and led us to a desk in the corner. A woman in her 30s stood up, extending her hand. I'm Stephanie Harris. Have a seat. We sat. Stephanie pulled up a form on her computer. So you're looking to open a checking account? Yes, I said. Just in my name. No joint account holders, Stephanie typed. Okay. I'll need to see your ID and social security card. I handed them over. She glanced at the driver's license, then at me. Mr. Morrison, are you currently banking with us? No. I've been with Columbia River Credit Union, but I'd like to move my accounts here. Any particular reason? Marcus spoke up. Mr. Morrison's had some issues with unauthorized access to his old account. We're looking for a fresh start. Stephanie's expression shifted slightly. Not suspicion, but understanding. She'd probably seen this before. I understand. We take account security very seriously here. Your new account will be password protected, and we can set up alerts for any withdrawals over a certain amount. That would be good, I said. She typed for a few more minutes, asked me to sign a couple forms. Then she printed out a temporary account number and handed it to me. Okay, Mr. Morrison, your account is open. Now, you mentioned redirecting benefit deposits. Yes, my VA disability and Social Security. They're currently going to my old account. I'd like them sent here instead. Stephanie pulled up another form. No problem. Do you have your benefit information handy? Marcus slid a folder across the desk. He'd already pulled my VA and Social Security statements. I didn't ask how. Stephanie reviewed them, then started filling out the electronic redirect forms. Okay. For VA benefits, the change takes about 5 to 7 business days to process. Social Security is similar. If I submit these today, the new routing should be active by January 1st. January 1st. The timing was perfect. New year, new account. And Derek and Jessica wouldn't know until the money stopped flowing. That works, I said. Stephanie typed some more. Then she hit submit. All set. You'll receive a confirmation letter in the mail within a week, and your debit card should arrive in about 5 days, so you're looking at December 20th or 21st. 5 days. I had to survive 5 more days without Derek noticing anything was wrong. Thank you, I said. Stephanie smiled. You're welcome, Mr. Morrison. If you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to call. She handed me a business card with her direct line. We shook hands and left. In the car, Marcus exhaled. Step 2 complete. Now we wait. What about Daniel Rivers? I asked. And Detective Brennan? Rivers has the evidence. He's drafting an emergency petition to APS Adult Protective Services. If things go south before January 1st, he can file it and get you pulled out immediately. And Brennan's on standby. I briefed her yesterday. She knows the situation. The second you give the word, she'll move. So now we just wait. Now we wait. Marcus glanced at me. 5 days for the card. Then another week until the deposits redirect. That's when Derek's going to figure out something's wrong. You need to be ready, Frank. Stay alert. Keep that recorder on you. And if he threatens you again, if it gets physical, you call me immediately. I nodded. Marcus drove me back to the house. Dropped me off a block away so the neighbors wouldn't see. I walked up the driveway, slipped in through the back door, climbed the stairs to the attic, sat on the bed, and stared at the business card Stephanie had given me. Stephanie Harris, Personal Banking Associate, Pacific Credit Union. 5 days until the card arrived. 5 days to survive. And then on January 1st, the money would stop, and all hell would break loose. Derek came up to the attic just after lunch. I was sitting on the bed, hands folded in my lap, staring at the wall. I'd been practicing this, the vacant expression, the slight tremor in my fingers. The look of a man who'd given up. Frank. Derek's voice was almost gentle. We need to talk about the house. I blinked slowly like I was coming out of a fog. The house. Yeah, the paperwork I showed you a few months ago. The quitclaim deed. Remember, I let my hands shake. Just a little. I don't know. I don't remember. Derek studied me. I could see him deciding whether I was faking or if I'd really lost it. After a moment, he nodded. It's okay. We'll deal with it later. He turned to leave, then stopped. You feeling all right, Frank? You look tired. Just tired. I said, my voice thin. He left. I waited until his footsteps faded, then unclenched my fists. Acting weak was harder than I'd thought. Every instinct in me wanted to stand up, square my shoulders, tell him to get the hell out of my house. But I couldn't. Not yet. I pulled out the prepaid phone Marcus had given me and sent a text, December 29th. He came asking about the deed, played confused, bought more time. Marcus replied instantly. Good. Card arrived today. Mailed to my address. Will deliver tomorrow. Hang tight. Tomorrow, December 30th. Then one more day until the money stopped. I could make it one more day. December 30th, 2024. Jessica was in the living room, laptop open on the coffee table. I could see the screen from the bottom of the attic stairs. She'd logged into the Columbia River Credit Union website. I watched through the gap in the door as she clicked through pages, checking the balance. Available balance $2,100. My December Social Security payment. Still sitting there, untouched. Jessica nodded to herself, satisfied. Closed the laptop. Called up to Derek, who was in the shower. Account looks fine. December deposits in. Derek's muffled voice. Good. That'll cover groceries and the mortgage payment. My mortgage payment. On my house. I slipped back into the attic and closed the door. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, the January deposits wouldn't come. The account would stay at $2,100, and by the second or third, when they expected the money, they'd realize something was wrong. That afternoon, Marcus met me in the VA parking lot. I'd convinced Jessica to drop me off for a checkup and handed me a small envelope. Inside was a debit card. Pacific Credit Union. My name embossed on the front. It's active, Marcus said. I already tested it. Your deposits are set to hit the new account at midnight tonight. By morning, you'll have your January payment, $2,100, and their account will have nothing. I stared at the card. This little piece of plastic was the difference between freedom and captivity, maybe even life and death. Daniel Rivers is ready, Marcus continued. Detective Brennan's on standby. If things go sideways tomorrow morning, you call me. I'll be 5 minutes away. Understand? I understand. Hi, Frank. Marcus gripped my shoulder. This is it. After tomorrow, there's no going back. You ready? I looked him in the eye. I've been ready for 3 years. December 31st, 2024. New Year's Eve. I couldn't sleep. Downstairs, Jessica and Derek were watching the ball drop on TV. I could hear the countdown, the cheers, the pop of a champagne cork. But I wasn't thinking about the new year. I was listening. The heating vent in the attic ran down through the walls straight into the master bedroom. Around 11:30, I heard them come upstairs. The bedroom door closed. Voices. I pressed the recorder against the vent and hit record. Derek. If the old man's not gone by February, we're done. Volkov's guys don't wait. Jessica, I know, but we can't just... Derek, we can, and we will. The nursing home's ready. January 5th, we move him. Once he's in there, we've got control. Then it's just a matter of time. Jessica. What if he fights it? What if he tells someone, Derek? Who's he going to tell Mrs. Martinez thinks he's senile? The VA hasn't seen him in months. He's got no friends, no phone, nothing. He's a ghost. A long pause. Then Jessica quieter. What about the furnace? You've been down there every day this week. Derek, routine maintenance. Making sure everything's working. Jessica, Derek. Don't worry about it. Just trust me. Another pause. Then the bed creaking. The TV turning on. I stopped the recording. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. But inside I was screaming. The furnace. Derek had been messing with the furnace. Routine maintenance. A gas leak. That's what he was planning. A gas leak, an accident, an elderly man with Alzheimer's who didn't know any better. I'd suspected it. But hearing him dodge the question, hearing Jessica's hesitation, it confirmed everything. I texted Marcus recorded conversation. January 5th, nursing home. Furnace mention gas leak plan. This is it. Marcus, stay calm. Tomorrow morning it all goes down. Be ready. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Midnight came. The new year arrived. And somewhere in a server at Pacific Credit Union, my deposits were redirected. January 1st, 2025, morning. I woke up at 7. Showered in the second-floor bathroom. Put on clean clothes. Came downstairs. Jessica was in the kitchen making coffee. Derek was at the table scrolling through his phone. I poured myself a glass of water and sat down. Morning, I said. Jessica glanced at me. Morning, Dad. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Jessica's phone buzzed. She picked it up, frowned. Huh. Derek looked up. What? A TM alert. I tried to transfer some money this morning for groceries. It got declined. Derek's expression shifted. Declined. Yeah. Let me check the account. She pulled up the banking app on her phone. I watched her face as she stared at the screen. Available balance, $2,100. The same $2,100 from December. No new deposit. Jessica's frown deepened. That's weird. Your Social Security and VA should have hit overnight. Derek stood up, came around the table, looked at the phone. His jaw tightened. Check the transaction history. Jessica scrolled. Nothing. No deposits since December 1st. Derek's eyes flicked to me. I kept my face neutral. Blank. Must be a holiday delay, I said quietly. Banks are closed for New Year's. Banks don't close deposits, Derek said. His voice was flat. Dangerous. Jessica tried the ATM card at the kitchen counter terminal. Declined. She tried again. Declined. Derek's fist clenched on the table. Jessica grabbed his arm. Derek, don't, but I saw it in his eyes. The fury, the desperation, the violence, and I knew. This was it. Before we continue, a quick note. The next part of this story includes some fictional elements added for storytelling purposes, so it may not be entirely real. If you're enjoying the story, please consider sharing the video and subscribing to the channel. so you won't miss the upcoming ones. And if this type of content isn't for you, feel free to stop watching here. Derek's fist came at me fast. I sidestepped. Muscle memory from 30 years ago, the kind of reflex you don't forget. His knuckles grazed my shoulder instead of my jaw. He stumbled forward off balance, caught himself on the kitchen counter. "You son of a..." "I know everything, Derek." My voice was calm, steady. The voice I'd used in Kuwait when the mortars were falling and the younger guys were panicking. The voice that said, "I'm in control." Derek froze, turned to look at me. "I know about the medication," I said. "Zolpidem instead of lisinopril. I know about the fake Alzheimer's diagnosis, Dr. Pritchard, February 2023. I know you owe $85,000 to Volkov's crew. I know about the forged loan, $45,000 against my house. And I know about Margaret's life insurance, $180,000. Derek's face went white. Jessica was standing by the table, hand over her mouth. "Dad, well, I know about the nursing home plan." I continued. "January 5th, Sunset Gardens, Medicaid bed hold. And I know you've been tampering with the furnace in the basement." I looked Derek in the eye. "A gas leak. That's what you were planning, wasn't it? Make it look like an accident. Confused old man with Alzheimer's doesn't smell the gas. Tragic." Derek's jaw tightened. His hand slid toward the knife block on the counter. "Don't," I said. He grabbed the knife anyway. 8-inch chef's knife. Stainless steel. Jessica screamed. "Derek, stop!" But he didn't stop. He came at me, blade raised. I backed up. 2 steps. 3. My shoulders hit the wall. Derek lunged, and the front door burst open. Marcus came through first. Then a woman in a dark blazer with a badge clipped to her belt. Behind them, 2 uniformed Portland police officers. Portland police dropped the weapon. Derek spun around, knife still in his hand. The woman detective Sarah Brennan, I'd learn later, had her service weapon drawn, aimed at Derek's chest. "Drop it, now!" For a second, Derek didn't move. I could see him calculating. Fight. Flight. Neither would work. The knife clattered to the floor. 2 hands behind your head. Get on your knees. Derek knelt. One of the officers moved in with handcuffs. Pulled Derek's arms back, cuffed his wrists. Read him his rights in a flat, professional monotone. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you." Jessica was frozen by the table. Detective Brennan holstered her weapon and turned to her. "Jessica Morrison." Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder abuse, fraud, and forgery. Turn around, please." "I didn't." Jessica's voice broke. "I didn't know he was going to..." "Ma'am, turn around." Jessica turned. The second officer cuffed her hands behind her back. She was sobbing now, shoulders shaking. Marcus stepped over to me. "You okay?" I nodded. Couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. Detective Brennan approached, slipping her badge into her pocket. She was in her early 40s, short, dark hair, sharp eyes. She looked at me the way a nurse looks at a patient, assessing, concerned. "Mr. Morrison, I'm Detective Sarah Brennan, Portland Police Elder Abuse Unit. Are you injured?" "No, but I managed. I'm fine." "Did he make contact with the knife?" "No, you got here in time." She nodded. "Good." Marcus gave us the recordings and the evidence. We've been parked outside since 6 a.m., waiting for probable cause. The moment we heard raised voices and the threat, we moved in. Marcus handed her a USB drive. "Everything's on here. Audio recordings from the past 2 months. Photos of the fake medical records. Statements from Mrs. Martinez and the VA pharmacist. The forged loan documents. It's all documented." Detective Brennan took the drive. "This'll go to the DA's office. We'll need your full statement, Mr. Morrison. But for now, let's get you out of this house. Do you have somewhere safe to stay?" "He's staying with me," Marcus said. "Until we sort this out." Brennan looked at me. "Is that acceptable to you, sir?" "Yes." "All right." She turned to the officers. Get them booked. I'll meet you at the precinct. The officers led Derek and Jessica toward the door. Derek didn't look at me. Didn't say a word. Just stared straight ahead, jaw set. But Jessica turned her head as they reached the threshold. Her eyes met mine. Dad, I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't answer. The door closed behind them. The house was silent. Marcus, Detective Brennan, and I stood in the kitchen. The knife was still on the floor. The coffee pot was still on. Everything looked normal, ordinary, but nothing would ever be ordinary again. Mr. Morrison. Brennan said gently, I need you to know what you did took incredible courage. Most victims of elder abuse never speak up. They're too afraid, too isolated, too convinced no one will believe them. You broke that cycle. I looked at her. I didn't do it alone. She glanced at Marcus. No. You had help. But you made the choice to fight back. That matters. Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. Come on, Frank. Let's get you out of here. I nodded, started toward the door, then stopped. Wait. I walked back through the kitchen, through the living room, up the stairs, all the way to the third floor, to the attic, the narrow bed, the slanted ceiling, the window that wouldn't open, the dresser with 3 drawers. I stood there for a moment, looking at the space that had been my prison for 2 years. Then I turned around and walked out, closed the door behind me. I wasn't coming back. Outside, the January air was cold and clean. I stood on the front porch, my front porch, and took a breath. A real breath. Deep and full and free. Marcus stood next to me. You all right? I looked at him. My friend. The man whose life I'd saved in the desert 33 years ago. The man who just saved mine. Yeah, I said. I am. Down the street, a patrol car pulled away with Derek in the back seat. A second car followed with Jessica. The handcuffs had clicked shut around Derek's wrists. Jessica had been crying. And for the first time in 3 years, I could breathe. The interview room at Portland Police Central Precinct was small and windowless. Gray walls. A metal table bolted to the floor. 2 chairs. A recording device in the corner, red light blinking. Detective Brennan sat across from me with a yellow legal pad and a digital recorder. Marcus was in the waiting area outside. They'd asked him to stay while I gave my statement. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Morrison, Brennan said. I took a breath, and I started talking. 4 hours. That's how long it took to tell the whole story. From Margaret's death in March of 2021 to this morning's confrontation. Every detail. Every threat. Every piece of evidence. Brennan didn't interrupt. Just took notes, nodded occasionally, asked clarifying questions. Dates, times, exact words Derek had used. Halfway through, she called in another detective, a younger guy named Patterson. His name was Patterson. Detective Patterson. He listened while I described the medication swap, the fake Alzheimer's diagnosis, the forged loan. When I got to the part about Derek and the knife, Brennan leaned forward. And he said, what exactly? He said if I didn't sign the quitclaim deed, he'd arrange an accident. That it would be easy. A gas leak. A fall. Something that wouldn't look suspicious for a man with Alzheimer's. She wrote that down. Underlined it twice. Oh, Mr. Morrison, did you ever sign that quitclaim deed? No. Treaty 2, did you sign any documents giving Jessica or Derek ownership of your property? No. Only the power of attorney back in December of 2021. But I didn't understand what I was signing. Brennan nodded. We'll need to get that document. Marcus mentioned he has copies of everything. He does. She made another note. Then she set down her pen and looked at me. Mr. Morrison, I've been working elder abuse cases for 8 years. I've seen a lot of victims, and I need you to understand something. She paused. What you did, calling for help, gathering evidence, standing up to them, that takes extraordinary courage. Most people in your situation never make it out. They're too afraid, too isolated. They don't believe anyone will help them. Her voice was steady, but there was something in her eyes. Respect, maybe, or sadness. You're one of the bravest people I've ever met, she said. And I promise you, we're going to make sure they pay for what they did. My throat tightened. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. By the time we finished, it was after 5. The sky outside was already dark. January in Portland. The sun sets early. Brennan walked me out to the waiting area where Marcus was sitting with a styrofoam cup of bad precinct coffee. We'll be in touch, Brennan said. Derek Walsh and Jessica Morrison are being held without bail pending arraignment. The charges are elder abuse in the first-degree financial exploitation, fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit murder. The DA's office will be contacting you about the trial. In the meantime, if you remember anything else, or if you feel unsafe, call me directly. She handed me her card. I took it. Thank you, Detective. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Marcus stood, shook her hand. We appreciate everything you're doing. Just doing my job. She looked at me one more time. Go home, Mr. Morrison. Get some rest. You've earned it. Marcus drove me back to the house. It was strange pulling into the driveway. I'd lived here for 36 years, but it felt different now. The porch light was on. Marcus must have flipped it before we left this morning. The front door was locked. I had my key, the one I hadn't used in 3 years, because Jessica and Derek had always been there controlling when I came and went. I unlocked the door, stepped inside. The house was silent. Not the oppressive silence of the past 2 years when I'd been locked in the attic and Jessica and Derek were living my life downstairs. This was a different kind of silence. Empty. Waiting. I walked through the living room, the kitchen. Everything looked the same. The coffee pot was still on the counter. The knife was gone. Police had taken it as evidence, but I could still see where it had been. I climbed the stairs to the second floor. Looked into the master bedroom. The bed was unmade. Jessica's clothes were still in the closet. Then I climbed one more flight. To the attic, the narrow bed, the slanted ceiling, the window that wouldn't open. I stood in the doorway for a long moment. Then I closed the door. I wasn't sleeping up there tonight. Marcus made dinner. Spaghetti with jarred sauce and garlic bread from the freezer. We ate at the kitchen table, the same table where Derek had threatened me just this morning. Feels weird, doesn't it? Marcus said. Yeah, being back. Without them. I nodded. I keep expecting to hear footsteps upstairs, or Jessica calling my name. That'll fade, Marcus said. Give it time. We ate in silence for a while. Then Marcus set down his fork. You remember Kuwait? He asked. I looked up. Which part? February 19th, 91. The IED that took out our convoy. I remembered. How could I forget? You carried me 3 miles through the desert, Marcus said quietly. My leg was shattered. I was bleeding out. You had shrapnel in your side, but you didn't stop. You just kept going. You would have done the same for me. Well, maybe, but I didn't have to. You did. He met my eyes. I owed you my life, Frank. I've owed you for 33 years, and I'll keep owing you until the day I die. You don't owe me anything, I said. Not anymore. You just saved my life. Marcus smiled. Then I guess we're even. I guess we are. That night, Marcus slept on the couch. I tried to convince him to take the guest room, but he refused. I'm not leaving you alone tonight, he said. Not after everything. I didn't argue. I went upstairs to the master bedroom. My bedroom, the one I hadn't slept in for 2 years, and lay down on the bed. The mattress was soft. The room was warm. I could hear the furnace humming downstairs, the rain tapping against the window. For the first time in 3 years, I was alone in my own house. No Jessica. No Derek. No one controlling me, watching me, threatening me. I should have felt relief, joy, freedom. But instead, I felt something else. Exhaustion. And beneath that, a cold, hard certainty. The house was mine again. Derek and Jessica were in jail. The evidence was with the police, the DA, the lawyers. But the war wasn't over. Not yet. There was still the trial, the testimony, The possibility that a jury might not believe me. The possibility that Derek's lawyers would find a way to twist the story, make me look like the confused old man Jessica had always claimed I was. The house was mine again, but the real battle was just beginning. Detective Brennan called on a Tuesday in February. I was in the kitchen making coffee. The house still felt too quiet. Marcus had gone back to his place in Beaverton the week before, but he checked in every day. Called, texted, made sure I was eating, sleeping, staying steady. The phone rang. I picked up. Mr. Morrison, it's Detective Brennan. Do you have a minute? Yes. I wanted to update you on the case. Derek Walsh has accepted a plea agreement. I set down my coffee mug. What kind of agreement? He's pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit murder, elder abuse, and fraud. In exchange, he's agreed to testify against Jessica. Full cooperation. The DA is offering him 12 years instead of 25. 12 years for planning to end my life. What did he tell them? I asked. Brennan's voice was calm, professional. Everything. He gave us the full plan, Mr. Morrison, and it's worse than we thought. She came to the house that afternoon with a folder full of documents. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Derek had threatened me 2 months ago. Brennan opened the folder. Derek's confession is 43 pages. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here are the key points. She pulled out a printed document. Legal letterhead. State of Oregon versus Derek Allen Walsh, defendant's allocution. First, Brennan said the gas leak. Derek admitted he'd been tampering with the furnace in your basement since November. He ordered a replacement gas valve online. Here's the receipt. She slid a printout across the table. Amazon order, November 18th, 2024. One natural gas valve, $27. He planned to loosen the connection. Brennan continued. Let gas build up overnight while you were asleep. Then claim it was an accident, faulty furnace, elderly man with Alzheimer's who didn't notice the smell. He said he was waiting for the right time, probably mid-January after they moved you to the nursing home. I stared at the receipt. $27. That's what my life was worth to him. Second, Brennan said the life insurance. We found out Derek had taken out an additional policy on you. $250,000. He forged your signature on the application last July. The insurance company never verified it. He used the power of attorney to authorize everything. So the total was $430,000, Brennan finished. Margaret's policy plus the one Derek bought. With that kind of payout, he could have paid off Volkov and had money left over. $430,000. I thought about Margaret, about the policy she'd taken out to protect me, to give me security after she was gone, and Derek had turned it into a reason to end my life. Third, Brennan said Jessica's involvement. Derek confirmed that Jessica knew everything. The medication swap, the fake Alzheimer's diagnosis, the nursing home plan, the gas leak. She helped him forge the medical records. She's the one who researched which drugs to use. She even helped him practice your signature for the loan documents. I closed my eyes. Mr. Morrison, I know this is hard. She's my daughter, I said quietly. I know. Brennan pulled out another document. We also recovered Derek's laptop. Digital forensics found emails between him and someone connected to the Volkov crew. The last email was dated January 2nd, the day after you changed your bank account. She slid the printout over. I read it. From redacted@redacted.com to d.walsh1979@gmail.com. Date January 2nd, 2025, 11:47 p.m. Subject RE payment. Derek, you missed the December check. Volkov is not happy. You have until February 15th to deliver $85,000 or we start collection procedures. Do not test us. Collection procedures. I knew what that meant. Derek was desperate, Brennan said. He owed the money and he was out of time. You were his only way out. I set the email down. My hands were steady, but something inside me felt hollow. What about Jessica? I asked. Heidi, she's being tried separately. Her lawyer is arguing coercion, that Derek manipulated her, that she was afraid of him, that she didn't fully understand what was happening. Is that true? Brennan shook her head. The evidence says otherwise. We have the recording you made on New Year's Eve, the one where Jessica and Derek discussed moving you to the nursing home and the timeline. She wasn't afraid. She was planning. She pulled out a transcript. I recognized the words immediately. Jessica Morrison. What if he fights it? What if he tells someone, Derek Walsh? Who's he going to tell? He's got no friends, no phone, nothing. He's a ghost. Jessica Morrison. What about the furnace? You've been down there every day this week. Derek Walsh. Don't worry about it. Just trust me. Brennan tapped the page. She knew Mr. Morrison. Maybe she didn't come up with the plan, but she knew, and she went along with it. I looked at the transcript. My daughter's voice. My daughter's words. The trial is set for April, Brennan said. Multnomah County Circuit Court. Jessica's pleading not guilty. Her lawyer's going to try to paint her as a victim. But the DA thinks we have a strong case, especially with Derek's testimony. Will I have to testify? I asked. Yes. You're the primary witness. The DA will prepare you, but yes, you'll be on the stand. I nodded slowly. Mr. Morrison. Brennan said gently. I know this is your daughter. I know how hard this must be. But she made choices, and those choices nearly cost you your life. I know, I said, and I did. Jessica was my daughter. I'd raised her, taught her to ride a bike, walked her down the aisle at her wedding, held her when Margaret died, but she'd also drugged me, locked me in an attic, helped Derek plan my death. Both things were true, and I didn't know which one hurt more. That night, I sat in the living room, staring at the photo on the mantel. Jessica, at 10 years old, grinning, missing her front teeth. Margaret and I on either side of her. We'd taken that picture at the coast, Cannon Beach. She'd spent the whole day collecting shells. I remembered that day, how happy she'd been, how simple everything had seemed. I didn't know when it had all gone wrong. The trial was in April, 2 months away, and I knew I'd have to sit in that courtroom and face my daughter, the daughter I'd raised, the daughter I'd loved, the daughter who'd tried to end my life. The courthouse was glass and steel, modern and cold. Multnomah County Circuit Court, downtown Portland. I walked through the metal detectors on a Monday morning in April, with Marcus beside me and Daniel Rivers, the elder abuse attorney, who'd been helping coordinate everything with the DA. Are you ready? Marcus asked. I nodded. I wasn't, but I would be. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling. A jury box with 12 faces I didn't know. Jessica sat at the defense table in a gray suit I'd never seen before. Hands folded, eyes down. Her lawyer, a man named Kowalski, sat beside her, flipping through notes. The prosecutor was a woman in her 50s named Ellen Marsh. She stood and called me to the witness stand. I was sworn in, told to state my name, Franklin James Morrison. Mr. Morrison. Marsh said, "Can you tell the jury how long you've lived in your home on Southeast Hawthorne?" 36 years. And for how much of that time did you live there alone after your wife passed? It was 6 months. Then my daughter and son-in-law moved in. Marsh walked me through it. Margaret's death. Jessica's offer to help. The power of attorney. The attic. The isolation. The medication. The fake diagnosis. The nursing home plan. I didn't look at Jessica. I kept my eyes on the jury, told them everything. Kowalski cross-examined me, tried to suggest I was confused, that my memory was unreliable, but Marsh had prepared me. I stayed calm, gave dates, times, names. When he asked if I'd ever signed documents willingly, I said yes and explained I hadn't understood what I was signing. After 2 hours, I stepped down. Mrs. Dolores Martinez took the stand. 73, gray hair, pulled back, steady voice. I've known Frank Morrison for 20 years. She said. He and my late friend Margaret were wonderful neighbors. After Margaret passed, I saw Frank less often. Jessica told me he had Alzheimer's. But I'm a retired nurse. I worked in geriatrics for 30 years. I know what dementia looks like. And did Mr. Morrison show signs of dementia? Marsh asked. No. I saw him at his window last spring. He waved to me. Clear, purposeful. Not confused. When I waved back, he smiled. That's not Alzheimer's. Kowalski tried to discredit her. Asked if she'd performed a medical exam if she was qualified to diagnose. Mrs. Martinez didn't flinch. I didn't need to examine him. I know the difference between a sick man and a prisoner. The jury wrote that down. Rodriguez, the VA pharmacist, testified about the medication. Confirmed my prescription was lisinopril, not zolpidem. Showed the records. Said someone had swapped the pills after they left the pharmacy. Then the prosecution played the recordings. The courtroom went silent, my voice crackling through the speaker. Then Derek's voice. Jessica's voice. The New Year's Eve conversation. If the old man's not gone by February, we're done. The nursing home's ready. January 5th, we move him. Jessica's lawyer objected twice. The judge overruled both times. The jury watched the video surveillance from the VA, Jessica, picking up prescriptions in my name dates, matching the medication swap timeline. By the end of the day, Kowalski looked tired. Marsh stood before the jury. Jessica Morrison is not a victim. She is a perpetrator. She isolated her father. She falsified medical records. She conspired with Derek Walsh to defraud and ultimately to end Frank Morrison's life. The evidence is overwhelming. The recordings, the witnesses, the forged documents. This is not a case of confusion or coercion. This is elder abuse, and it is a crime. Kowalski gave it his best. Argued Jessica had been manipulated by Derek, that she'd been afraid that she'd tried to stop him. But the recordings said otherwise. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have your honor. The foreperson stood, read the verdict. On the charge of elder abuse in the first degree, we find the defendant Jessica Lynn Morrison guilty. On the charge of financial exploitation of a vulnerable person, guilty. On the charge of fraud, guilty. One on the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, guilty. Jessica's head dropped. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder. The judge called for sentencing. Jessica Lynn Morrison, please rise. She stood. Kowalski stood beside her. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Patricia Hernandez, removed her glasses and looked down at Jessica. Ms. Morrison, I have presided over many cases in my 20 years on the bench. But elder abuse cases are among the most disturbing. They prey on the vulnerable, on the people who built our communities, who served our country, who raised families and worked hard, and trusted that their children would care for them in return. Her voice was steady, cold. You betrayed that trust. You isolated your father. You drugged him. You forged documents. You conspired with your husband to take his life. This court finds your actions reprehensible. This sentence reflects the gravity and depravity of what you have done. She looked at the paperwork in front of her. On the charge of elder abuse in the first degree, you are sentenced to 5 years in the Oregon Department of Corrections. On the charges of fraud and financial exploitation, concurrent sentences of 3 years each. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, an additional 3 years to be served consecutively. Total sentence 8 years. Wait, 8 years, not 5. The judge continued. However, given your cooperation during the investigation and your lack of prior criminal history, 3 years will be suspended. You will serve 5 years with the possibility of parole after 3. Jessica's knees buckled. The bailiff steadied her. As for Derek Allen Walsh, Judge Hernandez said, his plea agreement stands. 12 years no parole eligibility until 8 years served. She banged the gavel. This court is adjourned. 2 bailiffs moved toward Jessica, cuffed her hands in front of her, started to lead her toward the side door. She turned her head, looked back at me. Her eyes were red, tears streaming down her face. Dad, she said. Her voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I sat in the gallery. Marcus beside me. Mrs. Martinez behind me. I looked at my daughter, the daughter I'd raised, the daughter I'd loved, and I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The bailiffs led her through the door. It closed behind her, and I sat there staring at the empty space where she'd been, and felt something inside me break. Not anger, not relief, just emptiness. Outside the courthouse, Marcus asked if I was okay. I nodded, said yes. But I wasn't sure if it was true. Justice had been served. Derek would spend 12 years in prison, Jessica 5. But as I walked down the courthouse steps into the April rain, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. Like I'd won the war but lost something I couldn't name. I bought paint in July. Soft gray for the living room. Cream for the hallway. A pale blue for the attic. The room that had been my prison for 2 years. Marcus helped me move furniture, pull down old curtains, scrub walls. We worked in silence most of the time, the way soldiers do when the job just needs doing. By the end of the first week, the house didn't look like the place Jessica and Derek had occupied. It looked like mine again. You keeping anything of theirs? Marcus asked, holding a box of Jessica's old nursing textbooks. I looked at the box, shook my head. Goodwill can have it. He nodded, carried it out to his truck. The attic took the longest. I'd avoided going up there since the trial. But one Saturday morning in mid-July, I climbed the stairs with a tape measure, a notepad, and a thermos of coffee. The narrow bed was still there. The dresser, the slanted ceiling pressing down. The window that wouldn't open. I stood in the doorway for a long time, remembering. The heat, the cold, the sound of voices downstairs living my life while I rotted up here. Then I got to work. I hauled the bed and dresser to the curb, ripped up the old carpet, sanded the floorboards, painted the walls that pale blue, the color of the sky over the Gulf back in '91 when everything was still ahead of me. Marcus helped me build bookshelves along one wall, floor to ceiling. I filled them with the books I'd collected over the years, military history, Tom Clancy novels, Margaret's gardening books, a few old westerns. I bought a reading chair, a lamp, a small space heater for winter. By the end of the month, the attic wasn't a prison anymore. It was a library, a sanctuary, a place I could go by choice, not force. The VA held a support group every Tuesday afternoon. Veterans supporting veterans. I'd seen the flyers before but never paid attention. I didn't think I needed support. I was fine. I was managing. But in late July, Marcus convinced me to go. Just try it once, he said. If you hate it, you don't have to go back. So I went. The meeting was in a conference room on the 3rd floor of the VA hospital. A circle of folding chairs. 10 men, all veterans. Ages ranging from mid-50s to late 70s. A facilitator named Jim, 62, Marine Corps Gulf War, who opened with a simple question. Anyone got something they want to share this week? So A guy in his 60s talked about nightmares. Another talked about his daughter who'd moved across the country and stopped calling. A younger vet, maybe 50, talked about finding work after leaving the service. Then Jim looked at me. You're new. Frank Wright. I nodded. You want to share? No pressure. I hesitated. Then I said, my daughter and son-in-law tried to take everything from me. My house, my money, my life. They almost succeeded. But I fought back. And I won. The room was quiet. Then a man across the circle, 72, thin white beard, spoke up. How'd you know? He asked. That something was wrong. That I noticed things, I said. Small things at first. Then bigger things. My medication was wrong. My bank account was being drained. They told everyone I had Alzheimer's. But I didn't. The man nodded slowly. My son's been handling my finances for 2 years. Says it's easier that way. But I don't see the statements anymore. And when I ask, he gets mad. Another vet, 68, black guy, Army, leaned forward. My daughter moved in after my wife died. Took over everything. Says I'm too old to manage, but I'm not sick. I'm just tired. I looked at them. Saw myself 2 years ago. You're not too old, I said. And you're not sick. If someone's controlling your money, your mail, your life, that's not help. That's abuse. Jim wrote something on his notepad. Frank, would you be willing to talk to these guys after the meeting? Maybe share some resources? Yeah, I said. I can do that. After the meeting, the three of us sat in the lobby. I told them about Detective Brennan, about Daniel Rivers, the elder abuse attorney, about adult protective services, about how to document everything, bank statements, medications, conversations. The man with the beard, his name was Robert, shook my hand. Thank you. I thought I was going crazy. Thought maybe I was too old. You're not, I said. And you don't have to do this alone. Over the next month, I kept going to the meetings. Became a regular. Robert and the other vet, his name was William, both filed reports with APS. Both got lawyers. Both started taking back control of their lives. Marcus came with me sometimes. Sat in the circle. Didn't talk much, but his presence mattered. We'd go for coffee afterward. Talk about the guys. Talk about how many more were out there who didn't know where to turn. You're good at this, Marcus said one afternoon. Helping people. I'm just telling them what worked for me. That's what helping is, Frank. By late August, the house felt different. The living room had new furniture, a couch I'd picked out myself, not one Jessica had chosen. The kitchen smelled like coffee and bacon instead of Jessica's lavender air freshener. The attic was a place I went to read, not a place I was sent to disappear. I'd started sleeping in the master bedroom again. Margaret's side of the bed was still empty, but it didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt peaceful. One evening, I sat on the front porch with a beer watching the sun set over the neighborhood. Mrs. Martinez waved from her yard. I waved back. The house wasn't a prison anymore. It was a home, and for the first time in 4 years, I had a purpose beyond just surviving. I was living again. But forgiveness, that was a different war. I hadn't visited Jessica. Hadn't written her. Hadn't responded to the letter her lawyer had forwarded from the prison. I thought about her every day. Wondered if she was okay. Wondered if she understood what she'd done. Wondered if I'd ever be able to look at her without seeing the woman who'd locked me in an attic and helped plan my death. Marcus said forgiveness was for me, not for her. That carrying anger was like carrying shrapnel. It would tear me apart from the inside if I didn't let it go. But I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. Forgiveness was a war I didn't know how to fight, and I wasn't sure I could win. The civil suit settled in October. Daniel Rivers called me on a Thursday morning. Frank, we got the judgment. $100,600. $75,600 in restitution. That's 36 months of stolen benefits, and $25,000 in compensatory damages for emotional distress. I sat down at the kitchen table. They're paying that. They don't have a choice. The court ordered it. Derek's got nothing, but Jessica had some retirement savings. We'll garnish her wages once she's released, and Derek's got a small inheritance from his mother that's being liquidated. You'll see most of it within 90 days. And your fee, $18,000. Standard contingency. You'll net $82,600. $82,000. 3 years of my life bought back at $27,000 a year. It didn't seem like enough, but it was something. Thank you, Daniel, I said. You earned it, Frank. What they did was criminal and civil. You're entitled to every penny. The check arrived in November. I deposited it at Pacific Credit Union, the same place Stephanie Harris had helped me open my secret account a year ago. I used $15,000 to fix the house. New roof, new water heater. Replaced the furnace Derek had tampered with. The rest, I split some into savings, some into a CD for emergencies, and $10,000 I donated. Daniel had told me about a fund the VA was starting elder abuse prevention and education. Programs to teach veterans how to recognize financial exploitation. Legal clinics. Support groups. I wrote the check and mailed it the same day. It felt good. Turning the worst thing that had ever happened to me into something that might help someone else. Marcus and I started fishing that fall. Every Sunday morning, we'd drive out to the Columbia River just east of Portland, where the water ran wide and slow. We'd park at a public access point, walk down to the bank, cast our lines, and sit. Sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't. It was the kind of friendship that didn't need words. One Sunday in late October, the sky was gray and low, the kind of weather that makes you feel like you're the only two people left in the world. We'd been sitting for an hour, lines in the water, no bites. Marcus broke the silence. You ever think about forgiving her, Frank? I didn't answer right away. Just watched the river, the current pulling at my line. Every day, I said finally. And every day I'm not ready. Marcus nodded, reeled in his line, checked the bait, cast again. You know what they told us in the VA counseling group, the anger one? They said holding on to anger is like carrying shrapnel. It's in you, tearing you up from the inside, and the person who put it there doesn't even feel it. I know. So why not let it go? I looked at him. Because I don't know how. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I carried something for a long time. After Kuwait. After you saved me. I glanced over. What? Guilt, he said. I thought I should have been faster. Should have seen the IED before it went off. Thought if I'd been better, you wouldn't have had to carry me 3 miles with shrapnel in your side. He paused. I carried that for 20 years, Frank. 20 years of thinking I owed you something I could never repay. You didn't owe me anything. I know that now. But I didn't then. And it ate me up. He looked at me. It wasn't until I let it go, until I accepted that you did what you did, because that's who you are not, because I failed, that I could move on. I stared at the river. This is different. Is it? Jessica's my daughter. She tried to. I stopped. Couldn't say it. She tried to end your life. Marcus finished quietly. I know. And that's not something you just get over. But frank forgiveness isn't for her. It's for you. She's in prison. She's paying her debt. But you're the one still carrying the weight. And that weight, it'll end you slower than Derek ever could. I didn't say anything. Just watched the line drift downstream. You don't have to forgive her today, Marcus said. Or tomorrow. Or ever if that's what you decide. But you need to think about whether holding on to this is worth what it's costing you. What's it costing me? Pieces, Marcus said simply. We fished until noon, caught 2 trout, threw them both back, drove home in comfortable silence. That night, I sat in the attic library, the room that used to be my prison, and thought about what Marcus had said. Forgiveness. The word felt heavy. Impossible. Jessica was my daughter. I'd raised her, taught her right from wrong, and she'd chosen wrong. Chosen money over me. Chosen Derek over her own father. Chosen to help plan my death. How do you forgive that? Margaret used to say forgiveness was a gift you gave yourself. That holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But Margaret had never been locked in an attic, had never been drugged, isolated, erased. I pulled out the prepaid phone Marcus had given me a year ago. It still worked. I scrolled through the old texts, the ones from when I'd been planning my escape, the ones that had saved my life. Then I thought about the letter. Jessica's lawyer had forwarded it 2 months ago. It was sitting in the drawer of the side table, unopened. Oh, Dad, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I hadn't read past the first line. I pulled it out now, held it, stared at the envelope. But I didn't open it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Marcus was right about one thing: I was carrying weight. Every day. The anger, the betrayal, the grief for the daughter I'd lost. But letting it go felt like giving up. Like saying what she did was okay, and it wasn't okay. Maybe forgiveness didn't mean saying it was okay. Maybe it just meant letting go of the weight. But I wasn't ready. Not today. Maybe not ever. December came cold and wet the way it always does in Portland. I was in the garage on a Sunday afternoon, sanding down a chair I was building for Marcus. Christmas gift. The garage had become my workshop. Over the past few months, Marcus had helped me set up a workbench, organize tools, hang pegboard on the walls. It smelled like sawdust and wood oil. And when I was out here, hands busy, mind quiet, I felt something close to peace. The mail had come earlier. I'd heard the slot in the front door clank shut, but hadn't gone to check it. Now, with the chair legs smooth and the December light fading, I walked back into the house. 3 envelopes sat on the floor. A bill from the electric company. a holiday card from the VA hospital, and a letter with a return address I recognized. Oregon Department of Corrections. Women's Coffee Creek Correctional Facility. Wilsonville, Oregon. Sender Jessica L. Morrison, number 847293. I stood in the hallway holding the envelope, staring at my daughter's handwriting. I'd been expecting this. Her lawyer had mentioned she'd been writing letters, trying to make amends, he said, part of her therapy. I carried the letter into the kitchen, set it on the table, and made coffee. Sat down, opened it. Dear Dad, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you've read any of the letters I've sent. But I'm writing anyway because I need to say this even if you never hear it. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve to call you Dad anymore. Derek manipulated me, but that's not an excuse. I made my own choices. I let greed and fear blind me. I let him convince me that what we were doing was justified, that you were sick, that we were helping. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. I knew you weren't sick. I knew the Alzheimer's diagnosis was fake. I knew you were trapped in that attic, and I let it happen. I helped make it happen. Every day in here I think about Mom, about what she would say, what she would think of me. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back those 3 years. I can't erase the fear, the isolation, the betrayal. But I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I destroyed our family. I destroyed you. And I have to live with that for the rest of my life. I don't expect you to write back. I don't expect anything. I just hope that one day, maybe not now, maybe not for years, you can find peace. That you can have the life you deserve. The life I took from you. I love you, Dad. I always have. Even when I was doing the worst things. Even when I didn't show it. I'm sorry. Jessica, I set the letter down, stared at it, read it again. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I just felt tired. She was sorry. I believed that. The letter felt real, honest. Not the desperate manipulation of someone trying to get out of prison early. Just the broken words of a daughter who'd realized too late what she'd done. But sorry didn't erase 3 years. Sorry didn't undo the attic, the drugs, the lies. Sorry didn't bring back the father-daughter relationship we'd had before Margaret died. Sorry was just a word. I folded the letter, slipped it back into the envelope, and put it in the drawer of the side table. Same drawer where I'd kept the prepaid phone Marcus gave me a year ago. Same drawer where I'd hidden evidence when I was planning my escape. Now it held a letter I didn't know what to do with. Marcus showed up an hour later with a pizza and 2 beers. Thought you might want company, he said, setting the box on the kitchen table. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus nodded at the side table. That from her, I nodded. You read it. Yeah. And I took a sip of beer. She's sorry. Says she destroyed everything. Says she doesn't expect forgiveness. Marcus waited. I don't know what to do with it, I said. You don't have to do anything. Not today. I keep thinking maybe I should write back. Tell her. I don't know. Something. Do you want to? I thought about it. Not yet. Marcus nodded. Then don't. You'll know when you're ready. Or maybe you won't ever be. Either way, it's your call. You think I should forgive her. Marcus leaned back in his chair. I think forgiveness is a long road, Frank. Some days you're walking it. Some days you're not. And that's okay. What matters is you get to choose. After 3 years of having no choices, that's the win. I looked at him, my friend, the man I'd saved in Kuwait, the man who'd saved me here. Thanks, Marcus. Anytime. After he left, I sat in the living room with the lights off, watching the rain streak down the windows. Forgiveness. The word used to feel impossible. A mountain I couldn't climb. A war I couldn't win. But maybe it wasn't a mountain. Maybe it wasn't a war. Maybe it was just a road. One I could walk when I was ready, or not walk at all. And either choice was mine. Margaret used to say, "Take care of yourself first, Frank. You can't help anyone if you're broken." I finally understood what she meant. For 3 years, I tried to be the good father. Signed the papers they asked me to sign. Let them move in. Let them control my money, my life, my freedom, because I thought that's what a father does. That's what love looks like. But I'd been wrong. Love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. Love means boundaries. It means protecting yourself so you can be there for the people who matter. And right now, the person who mattered most was me. The house was quiet now. Not the oppressive silence of captivity. Just peace. Marcus came over every Sunday. We'd drink coffee, talk about nothing, sometimes go fishing. Mrs. Martinez brought tamales every Friday, homemade, wrapped in foil, still warm. The veteran group met every Tuesday at the VA, and I showed up. Helped guys who were where I'd been. Told them they weren't alone. I slept in my own bed. The master bedroom, not the attic. The door was unlocked. My medication sat on the nightstand, and every morning I took the right pills. The ones that were actually prescribed to me. I had my house back. My money back. My life back. And every day I woke up and made a choice. To keep going. To keep healing. To keep living. I thought about that morning a year ago. January 1st, 2025. I'd changed my bank account details and gotten a new card. My daughter and son-in-law had been waiting for me enraged, but I'd been ready, and I'd survived. Not just survived, I'd fought back. I'd won. The war was over. Derek was in prison. Jessica was in prison. The house was mine. The money was mine. The choices were mine. But some wounds don't heal. Some scars don't fade. And maybe that's okay. Maybe healing isn't about erasing the past. Maybe it's about learning to carry it without letting it crush you. Forgiveness is a long road. Some days I walk it. I think about Jessica, about the little girl who used to sit on my lap and ask me to read her bedtime stories, about the daughter I raised, about whether someday I'll be able to look at her and see that girl again instead of the woman who locked me in an attic. Some days I don't walk it. I remember the 3 years, the fear, the isolation, the realization that my own daughter wanted me gone. And I think maybe I'll never forgive her. Maybe that's okay too. But the choice to try, the choice to wait, the choice to walk away, that choice is mine. And after 3 years of having no choices at all, that freedom is everything. Some wounds heal, some scars remain. But the choice to keep walking, to keep living, to keep choosing, that choice is mine, and that choice is freedom. Looking back on everything that happened, I realize how easy it is to lose yourself when you're trying to help the people you love. I signed that power of attorney because I trusted my daughter. I moved into the attic because I thought I was being cooperative. I stayed silent because I didn't want to cause trouble. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my grandpa's stories, it's this: don't be like me. Don't wait until you're trapped to speak up. Elder abuse doesn't announce itself with a dramatic moment. It starts small, someone helping with your bills, suggesting you don't need to bother with bank statements anymore, telling neighbors you're forgetful. Before you know it, you've lost control of your own life. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're isolated, powerless, and afraid. This family story taught me 3 lessons I'll carry for the rest of my life. First, boundaries aren't betrayal. Margaret told me to take care of myself first, and I thought that was selfish. But she was right. You can't help anyone if you're broken. Saying no to your children, setting limits, keeping control of your finances, that's not rejection. That's survival. Second, trust your gut. I knew something was wrong the moment Derek asked about my bank account. I felt it when Jessica told neighbors I had Alzheimer's. But I second-guessed myself. I thought, they're family. They wouldn't hurt me. That hesitation almost cost me my life. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore that voice. Third, you're not alone. For 2 years, I believed no one would help me. I was wrong. Mrs. Martinez saw me. Rodriguez at the VA pharmacy verified my medication. Marcus answered my call. Detective Brennan believed me. There are people who will fight for you, but you have to let them in. You have to ask for help. And if there's any wisdom I can offer beyond my own experience, it's this: God gives us strength when we think we have none left. I prayed in that attic. I prayed when Derek threatened me. I prayed that someone would see me. And somehow, against all odds, I survived. Faith doesn't always look like miracles. Sometimes it looks like Marcus picking up the phone. Sometimes it looks like a pharmacist double-checking a prescription. Sometimes it looks like finding the courage to fight back when every part of you wants to give up. These grandpa stories I've been sharing aren't just entertainment, they're warnings. They're lessons from someone who survived what many don't. And this particular family story, as painful as it was to tell, needs to be heard. Because somewhere right now, another elderly veteran is sitting in an attic wondering if anyone will notice. Another father is signing papers he doesn't understand. Another family story is turning into a tragedy that could have been prevented. This Grandpa Stories series exists because silence protects abusers. Speaking up saves lives. And if sharing my experience, ugly and broken as it is, can help even one person recognize the warning signs, then every painful memory was worth reliving. If you're in a situation like mine, please document everything, tell someone you trust, and call Adult Protective Services. You deserve safety. You deserve dignity. You deserve to live your final years in peace, not fear. Thank you for walking with me to the end of this journey. I'd love to hear your perspective. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation like mine, trapped by those you trusted most? Please leave a comment and share your thoughts below. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing so you won't miss future videos where I continue to share lessons from my life and the lives of veterans like me. A quick note: while inspired by real elder abuse cases and veteran experiences, certain elements of this narrative have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this type of content isn't for you, feel free to explore other videos that might suit your preferences better.